recently got back from a 5-day backpacking trip in the Eastern Sierras. Went out for a out and back to Rae Lakes loop and headed back to Onion Valley Campground. It was about 5 nights overall, as we spent the first night at Onion Valley, and then set off, camped at each lake along the way, and finished within 5 days. Technically 4 nights in the backcountry, but an additional night at Onion Valley Campground. So let's go through a little gear list of what I took for 5 days out in the Eastern Sierras. So starting off with clothes, went ahead and rocked just a simple pair of basketball shorts. They got zippered pockets, so very useful for keeping things contained out there. Underneath those, I use a pair of compression shorts that have little side pockets on either side. So I like to store my phone and or power bank in those there. For the top layer, I went with a Bass Dash sun hoodie. It's nice to have the hood out there. We did get a good bit of weather the first couple of days, lots of rain and clouds, and then it was pretty sunny after that, so yeah, that came in handy pretty well. 2 pairs of socks. I was only rocking one generally on the trail, but I did have a couple pairs, that way, warm up at night. And for the head, just my classic SFRC, the San Francisco Running Company hat. Love this guy, he's been through a lot with me, and very lightweight, but it has a nice solid brim for my sleep system, which you'll see soon. Before we dive into the backpack, let's jump into my fanny pack here. It's the Patagonia, I think it's called the Mini Black Hole, something like that. Very, very lightweight, but it has a lot of storage in there, so love this guy. In the smaller pocket, we've got just kind of our first aid situation. So, hand sanitizer, bug spray. Got ourselves a nice mini Bic lighter. I do have Tums, some extra strong Advil, and Aqua Tabs just in case. Chapstick, very important in the sun. A whole bunch of Advil. Looks like one of them burst a little bit, but it's all good. It still works. So Advil's incredibly important. You never know when you're gonna need it, so always carry some with you. Pepto-Bismol. I do experience a decent amount of heartburn, so I want to make sure I was fully covered for that out in the backcountry. This is our little Ziploc of Band-Aids, sting relief, some antiseptic wipes. Just some simple first aid stuff there. We've got mini knife. It's the Night Eyes pocket knife. Super duper small. It's about the size of, just over the size of my middle finger, honestly. Weighs a couple, maybe an ounce or so. But never really had to use a knife out there, so I like having something super small and lightweight like this that I don't really remember I have until I need it, basically. Got my flashlight. This is essentially my headlamp while I'm out there. It works great. It's the Rory Avon A1. Ruby Aurora, that's what it is. Ruby Aurora 8.1. It's got a couple of brightness settings, so very useful. It does have a little clip, so I can clip that to my hat, make it use as an actual headlamp. Got a small little nail clipper. I mean, realistically, you're not going to need this if you have a knife, but I don't really like messing with bad nails while I'm on trail. I mean, if you snag something, your nail's fucked up for the rest of the trip. It's nice to have a little nail clipper. It doesn't weigh a whole lot of anything. For blisters, had a safety pin. This is my favorite way of actually popping blisters out there, so I always carry a small one of those. And my tent stakes. I forget what these are called. I got these on Amazon from a UK store. Each one of these tent stakes weighs 2 grams. So I've got 6 here, so 12 grams worth of tent stakes. That's like one MSR groundhog. So I know what you're thinking. I mean, that's tiny. Like, that doesn't seem like it's gonna do a whole lot of anything, but stick that through your tent pole or your tent loop, And with where we were at in the Eastern Sierras, I mean, there's rocks everywhere. So I'd secure it extra with just a rock right on top of the tent stake. Works great, never had an issue. That's the small pocket. Moving into the big pocket. Got my Outdoor Research lightweight running gloves. These are great. I mean, they've got the touchscreen capability. They are extremely small and lightweight. They pack up to almost nothing. Not the warmest thing out there. I'll be honest, I definitely had some chilly mornings and nights, but these were great. If I hadn't had them, that would have been miserable. And of course, gotta have the handy dandy toilet paper. Wrap it up in a Ziploc bag because you never want that shit getting wet. That's important to stay dry. I did keep my GoPro additionally in my big pocket here, but that's what I'm recording on currently. So it's the fanny pack. That was great. I had that on me at most of the hours. And the nice thing is with my poop kit and my first aid, basically had everything that would be needed in a pinch on me. So that's pretty wonderful. Going back to poop, actually, I'm sure you all realize I've got the toilet paper but no trowel. Again, I'm talking about a bunch of rocks out there in the Eastern Sierras. Rocks are amazing. You can use a rock to dig a hole. It's pretty easy when you got the right rock, so didn't really worry about having a lightweight trowel with me this time. All right, we are digging into the backpack now. This is the Palante Packs, I think it's called the Joey. It's 24 liters. I love this pack for so many reasons, but one of my favorites is it has the running vest style shoulder straps. I'm not good about drinking water when I'm out on the trail, so having water bottles right there in the front, super key for me. I love having that. So this was definitely my go-to pack. For 5 days in the Sierras, the trip was September 10th through the 15th, so it was cold. This thing was basically right on the edge of being a little too small. I loved it, and I don't think I would change it, but it's one thing that I got to consider as I'm starting to hit that shoulder season, that maybe going for a 30 or even a 35 liter pack would be beneficial just for packing an extra layer or two. So, love this guy, would never get rid of him. Digging into the front, so, I mean, as you can see, I've got a lot of ultralight stuff going on. This is not one of them. My Hydro Flask. This was a decision I made last minute. I'm a huge tea drinker on the trails. Don't really love coffee on trail. I do coffee every single day when I'm off trail, but on the trail, tea is my go-to. So, one, to keep it warm, one, to keep it fresh. Hydro Flask is one of the best for that. So, I had this. It was a little bit of a luxury, but I was extraordinarily happy having it the entire time. And definitely, I was with 4 other guys. I think I had a couple guys jealous that I had some hot tea mid-hike. So, that was pretty wonderful. The other side, I got my SIG single wall titanium water bottle. This guy's amazing. I mean, it has the sport caps you can drink on the go. Has a smaller enclosure, so I think you could probably put a filter on there if you absolutely needed to. I don't know which filter would fit, but it has kind of like the right size diameter for it. And then for scooping water, it even has a larger opening. So I love this guy. With it being single wall, if I needed to, I could boil water in this. I didn't do that this time because I did have a stove and a pot with me, but it's definitely an option. It's one of my favorite bottles. It is metal. It's full of water right now, so it's a little heavier, but when it's empty, maybe weighs a couple of ounces. This guy's incredible. All right. This is one item that I did not use the entire trip. It's my Black Diamond lantern. I think it's out of battery now. It was pretty cold out there, so drained battery is pretty good. But with having 4 other guys on trail, I wanted to have an option if we were kind of enjoying camp night to have a little string light. So this was the option. I was going to be able to string it up in a tree or something and have a little bit of ambient light for us. But again, I never used it, so not sure I'd bring it on the next trip. Let's get into the side pouches here. Alright. On this one side, I got my Thermarest Neo Air inflatable sleeping pad. This is the mummy size, so it's narrow at the feet and it's pretty slim throughout the entire body. Be honest, I love this guy. but I think if I'm ever gonna get another sleeping pad, it's gonna be the wide, or maybe regular, but probably the wide. My arms were barely able to stay on my sides while I was asleep. If I'm on my back, which I do sleep on my back pretty often. If I'm on my side, then it didn't really bother me too much, but definitely would have liked to have a little bit more width on a sleeping pad. Alright, other side. Strapped to my backpack, I've got my Govee thermometer. So it's a little Bluetooth thermometer. It tracks temperatures throughout the day, and then when you get back home, go on the app and load everything up. So a bit of a data geek. I enjoy looking at kind of what data I can gather on the trail. This was just a fun one for seeing how cold nights got and how warm it was during the day. So attached to that is my whistle. This is one of the louder whistles you can get for it being so lightweight, so it's definitely a key item. I've never had to use it, but it's really important to have a whistle on you. Got my Lucky trekking poles. I love these things. I've had these for 2.5, maybe 3 years now. Would never ever change from the brand. I might get a different set of Luckies at one point, but I love these things. One thing I'll say is, for 3 years, I finally cracked one. Heading down Glen Pass, one of them got caught in a rock. My body kept going, and it just cracked the bottom. It's not a full split, so I'm able to tape it up pretty good and splinter it, but pretty sad about that. So they still work, but they might be on their last life here. All right, this is one of the most important things you can bring out there. Helinox chair. I use this thing 3 to 4 hours a day probably. We were hiking probably anywhere between 6 to 8.5, maybe 9 miles a day. So it wasn't really long days, and we did have a lot of time in camp to just kind of relax. So that was one of the first things popped up. Had a chair to sit in. I do have a bear box in here, but you'll see it's not one of the larger ones. So the chair was extraordinarily useful for having a really comfortable experience at camp. Alright, got the front of our pack here. This was something I got from the Jupiter Hikes. It's a pair of dance pants off Amazon. And these things are extremely thin. I think it's like a nylon material, I'm not totally sure. But they're kind of like a rain pant, but much, much, much thinner. You can hike in these and not overheat. But given the fact that it was mid-September at about 10.5, 11,000 feet elevation, I got pretty cold at night in the mornings with those. With those in my pair of shorts, my legs were pretty exposed. So I think doing a trip again this time of year at that area, I would probably opt for either a pair of pants instead of shorts, or doing actual rain pants instead of the dance pants. But they're staying in my inventory. I love those things. My river/camp shoes. It's basically a pair of like shower shoes or river shoes. They've got some tread on the bottom, so you can walk around camp in these guys. Closed-toed, which I really do enjoy. They're great. I mean, they dry quickly. Again, my feet got fairly cold in these. I did wear my trail runners for a good chunk of the nights because these are so thin. But these are great for just putting on, if you got a quick water crossing, you can just toss these on really fast. So that was wonderful for sure. This was another bit of a luxury I brought. So it's my electronics bag. I was recording a lot of stuff on the GoPro, so I brought a couple extra GoPro batteries. Honestly, did not need these two. I never ended up switching it out, but I'm happy I had them just in case. Got my cords. I got an Apple cord, as well as a micro USB, and on the end of that is a little adapter for my Garmin watch. I did go the entire trip without having to charge my Garmin watch, but on the last day, just because I wanted to come home with a little bit more battery, I gave it a quick charge overnight, but it was at 50% still, so it would have been totally fine for the trip. And this hunkin' bad boy here, my power bank. It's a 38,000 mAh, so it's massive. It's got wireless charging on the front. This was extremely key. I'm so happy I had that. This became kind of a staple for most of the guys at camp. We'd get there, set up camp. I had this guy just kind of sit in the shade by our kitchen, and people would just go toss their phones on it. By the end of the trip, it did basically run out of battery. It might have been able to charge another 5 to 10% on the phone, but between 5 guys charging their phones for four nights and 5 days, it's pretty impressive. It's not the lightest thing, probably weighs 1.5 pounds, maybe just under that. But again, going with so many guys, this was key. And I'm sure you saw, but I had that all in a Ziploc freezer bag. Again, nights got really, really cold out there, so I wanted to make sure that everything was safe overnight. I did sleep with this in my bivvy, but it's not the warmest sleep system, and so I wanted to make sure everything was safe overnight and not draining battery when it didn't need to, basically. All right, last thing in our front here. Got the Arc'teryx wind jacket. So I did not bring a rain jacket. To be totally honest, I thought this was a bit of a rain shell when I went out there. After the first day of rain, it soaked through, and I realized pretty quickly this is not an actual rain shell, but it worked great for the wind after that. So I don't know if I would have changed this system out. I really did enjoy having a nice windbreaker, but I probably would have packed an actual rain jacket knowing this was not waterproof. So one thing to keep in mind for next time. It's got some stink to it. Let's dive on in. Alright, so this guy, I mean, this is packed from kind of how everything was after the last day, so it's not packed exactly extraordinarily, but it works just fine. I did bring a couple of jackets. This was my down puffy. It's a Mammut down. It's kind of a hybrid insulation, so it's really, really nice. It doesn't have the baffles and all that, but it does offer some synthetic down material in there. The sides are a little bit more like a fleecy microgrid material, but this was wonderful. This guy really did help me out at nights. Still got a little bit chilly out there, but I think it wasn't my top layer. I think it was my lower layer and my feet that really kind of got the majority of the cold, and it just shot everything up through my body. So happy with that for sure. All right, got our Bear Vault BV 425. So for packing 5 days worth of food, it was a bit of a struggle. Did manage to make it happen with the first day's worth of food kind of shoved in the bottom pouch of the backpack. But this guy's wonderful. I mean, like I said, it's not really a chair. You could do a very, very low squat on this, but it won't be comfortable for long. But with this guy, I did pack 5 mornings worth of oatmeal. I do 2 packs of the brown sugar Quaker's oatmeal, some instant milk powder, and some raisins, all inside of a Ziploc bag for rehydration. So I had 5 of those. Lunches, I did some tuna packs with carb balance mission tortillas, a little bit of mayonnaise, like a little single serve pack, and then Cholula hot sauce. That was probably my highlight of my meals, was the lunch. Those were really good. And then for dinner, I went for some instant mashed potatoes, the Idahoans. By about day 3, I was really, really over the instant mashed potatoes, I'll be honest. The texture is just not there. I did add some pepper, some nutritional yeast, some instant milk powder to the mashed potatoes, and I made sure the variety of flavors were there. I had 5 different flavors. And then, thankfully, I had a buddy forge some chicken of the woods mushrooms. So I went ahead and dehydrated some of those, had a little Ziploc of just dehydrated mushrooms, and I added some of those to each of my mashed potato meals. So it offered a little bit of a crunch. Really, I would have done a lot differently for meals, for dinner. But with what I have in terms of space here, it's kind of the best I could have done. The dehydrated meals from Mountain House or Peak Refuel, I mean, even if you repackage those, they take up so much space with the consistency of the meals. So I would have had to upgrade the Bear Vault to the 450 instead of the 425, which probably would do again for another 5-day trip. But I really enjoyed how light I was able to pack this time. I do have some Earl Grey tea packs in there. That was key. As I was mentioning with my water bottle, I had a packet of tea every single day. And yeah, other than that, it's a bunch of trash in there. Got my fuel canisters. And I should just go ahead and open that up for showing you one thing here. well, I guess I can show you my spork, MSR folding spork, kind of a, I don't know what kind of material it is. It's not metal by any means, but it's like a hard plastic that doesn't melt, so it's pretty great. Like this guy a lot. And then for a water filter, I've got my Salomon, I think it's called the XA filter. Basically just a 500 liter bladder here with the filter attached to the nozzle. So I can scoop up water in here, take off the little rubber cap, and water just filters right on through. So it's pretty nice. I was blessed that a couple of the guys brought some pretty hardcore water filters. There was a couple of gravity filters out there, so didn't use my water filter too much. We kind of used theirs a little bit more to share, but that was pretty key to have that. Moving right along, my other jacket for the trip. It is the Mountain Hardwear. I don't really know what this guy's called, but it's kind of a mix again of a little bit of a synthetic down material, but it's got a lot more of that microgrid kind of material as well. It does have a hood on this one, so with my sun hoodie hood, it was great during the day, but I needed more of a thick hood at night, so this was very beneficial for that. I slept in both my jackets, so didn't have any extra layers, but for the most part I was okay. There were some colder sections at night, but managed to make it through. And as a pack liner, had a trash bag. I did have my jacket stored in there, but obviously for last day I was just kind of packing shit up real quick. Alright, here's my tent. The MSR eBivvy. So this guy is essentially just a big ol' nylon sack. Lays on the ground. It's got a big ol' hood here that I was able to tie off to a tree. And then you got sleeping bag, inflatable, all that kind of stuff. Slides right on into the little sack, and you just slide your body in there. So I love my bivvy. I'm a huge fan of bivvies, but as is the theme with this trip, I likely would have packed a little differently just knowing the season I was in. We did get a good bit of rain the first night at Onion Valley Campground, and so I started the day off just soaked. The bivvy does not work well in the rain. The hood, I had to close it down really quickly as the rain started coming down, and just the material in general, it's not the most waterproof. In a good downpour, the water soaks right through. So I was pretty cold starting the trail off, and then through the entire first day, we just got rain. We got maybe 30 minutes of sunshine that first day. My pillow, the Sea to Summit Eros Premium Regular. I love this guy. He's great. He's super lightweight, very reliable. Never had an issue with my pillow here, so I'm definitely happy with that. I had a couple buddies with the Nemo pillows. I was a little bit jealous with just the size of them. A little bit wider, a little bit more rectangular, so almost more of a traditional style pillow. But this one packs down to almost nothing, versus theirs was quite a bit bigger. So I mean, that's still got some decent air in it, and it's packing down to very tiny. So that's a big win right there. At nights, I did rock the, what's this guy? I don't even know the brand, honestly. It's a little Amazon cheapo beanie. It's one of the smallest ones I could find, but it's a nice fleece material. And so, again, packs down to almost nothing, but it offered my head quite a bit of warmth at night during, like, around camp. For sleep, I was between this and the baseball cap. If I was able to prop the hood of the bivvy up on a tree or something, then I was rocking this guy. But for nights that were a little bit more inconsistent, where there was some rain or whatever, I would for sure rock the baseball cap so I could keep the hood off my face, basically. And my quilt. So, figure out where we are. There we are. This is the REI, this is the Magnus, I think it's called. I want to say it's a 30-degree quilt, maybe it's 20. This guy was wonderful. Definitely had some pretty cold nights in terms of just the exposure of the bivvy. Had this been inside of a tent, it would have been perfect. I would not have had any issues with this quilt. But due to the bivvy essentially rests right on the sleeping quilt, and I I don't know if it was my breath or if it was the ambient air, but I would wake up mostly soaked every morning. Condensation was just really, really nasty out there. So this guy was pretty wet every single morning. Had to dry him out once I got to camp after the hike. Once he was dry, I mean, I slept really well for the first half of the night, and then I'd start getting a little chilly towards the end of the night. So I think that has to do with my bivvy. Again, bivvies are great for summertime or like if it's not crazy high elevation. But I think doing the Sierras mid-September, I think I would have opted for a tent instead. So that's what I had going on for my sleep system. Last but not least is my cook kit. This is some cheapo Amazon brand, Lixida. I don't know, 750 milliliter. It's got the butterfly handles, got the little bail handle, got a metal lid with a way to hold the handle up. So definitely a very useful little pot. I did store my fuel inside of here, but given the fact that I was just scrambling last day, I didn't store it in there again. Got a bandana. That was essentially just keeping the fuel from scratching the bottom of the pot. I was only boiling water in my pot and then rehydrating in my Ziploc bags, so I didn't have to worry about cleaning this guy out or storing him inside my bear box, which is really nice. I've got one more mini Bic, a little redundancy, because gotta have some fire out there. That's very, very important. Last but not least, I've got my Ollie Camp little stove. This guy is wonderful. Everyone else on the trail had a jet boil, which was convenient for the aspect of just boiling within 30 seconds. But this guy takes maybe 2 minutes to boil some water. Super, super small, fits inside the little 750 milliliter. Maybe not as efficient in terms of gas, but I didn't have any issues with it. So I love my little Ollie Camp. Would not change this out. It's basically $20, I think, on Amazon. It's essentially the BRS 3000, but just more reliable. I like this guy a lot, so check it out if you haven't before. And want to say that's pretty much it for my trip. So all that fit inside of a 24-liter backpack, the Palante packs. If you haven't heard of Palante, check them out. It's one of my favorite backpack brands. There's a lot of really good backpacks in general, but Palante is high quality, very comfortable, generally super ultralight. I mean, you don't have any frame in there, there's no hip belt. It's a very, very, very minimal pack, but it's got the front pocket, the 2 side pockets, the big interior, which you do a little roll down system on it, and it does make it generally waterproof. I don't know if this material is fully waterproof in a downpour, but I didn't have too many issues, to be honest with it. And my favorite aspect is at the very bottom, there's this little pouch down here. And so I store my snacks or my meal for that day. Down in here, it's got a little slot on the other side. So if you are eating trail snacks, you can slide your wrappers into this side and kind of keep fresh food on the opening, trash on the inside. And that's just a wonderful little system. So again, if you haven't heard of Palante packs, give them a check. It's a wonderful brand. Not expensive backpacks. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Hyperlight, I love all those brands, but they're $300 for a backpack. This guy was probably $150, maybe $175. Definitely smaller, definitely a little bit more minimal, but it works great for what I've got going on. So I was super stoked on that. I guess the one thing I don't have here to show you were my shoes. I was using a pair of Salomons, some trail runners. They're called the Glide Max TRs trails. So they're basically kind of like a pair of Hoka's, Hoka trail runners, very cushioned at the bottom. But I love the Salomon brand. It fits my feet really, really well. So I was rocking those every single day. So yeah, that's everything I carried for 5 days out in the backcountry in the Eastern Sierras. Camping around 10,000 to 11,000 feet, hiking 6 to 9 miles a day, and just having a great fucking time out there. So thanks for joining, y'all.